The thing with Tim is he's a fucking whore. He took that picture next to about 100 different people.
Right, we are now live, by the way. Just want to say hello to anyone who's arriving. We'll just give people a chance to arrive because me and Swiss have a few of the same, like the regulars on the channel, a few of the same subscribers. So the vegan debate will continue.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah, actually, who is that woman? That's it. Isn't he totally random?
Yes.
She?
What's she holding? Like a jam of
milk.
A jar of like what?
Well, I've just linked you guys in the side chat here to an image online. If you give that a click, you will see that Tim has taken many pictures with many people holding. And he likes to change it up. He holds the milk, but I swear in one of those pictures, maybe not on this screen cap, but I've seen it somewhere. He's actually holding the coffee instead of the milk. He changes it up a bit when he fancies.
Why though? Why is that his gimmick?
I think there was like some kind of a Lib Dem party events where they were trying to promote like the price of goods. You know, milk costs this much, coffee costs this much, the cost of living or something.
He knows the price of milk.
Well, he knew the price of that milk by the end of the day.
Oh my god,
that's hilarious! Yeah, I'll share this amongst the vegan debate death squad.
Okay.
Yeah, is that other debate still going on with Logan?
I don't know. That's boring as shit. That guy doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
He's just like that guy doesn't know what he's on about.
Hi, Gerard. Gerard's in here.
You're right. Have you got a link to the actual stream? Because I can't see it on your channel, Angels. On your channel, it's just
I've got one. I'll post it in the hangout.
Gerard's always got one.
There we go. The vegans are coming. Right, I'll send this out on my Twitter as well then.
Gerard knows all.
I do.
No, 7 people watching already. Lee and Anthony.
Are you guys in the same time zone here? All like UK time?
Oh.
Yep.
3:11.
Us 3 are you?
Holy shit! I've actually got a call coming
4. Gerard's English. I can tell by his accent.
He's Irish.
You're full of shit.
Oh.
Yeah, you've got to make that distinction. I fucked up the other day. I said that Gerard was from the Republic when correctly he is from Northern Ireland.
Is that a different time zone?
No.
Oh, all right. I was correct then. Kind of. You're not from anyway. Okay, so how are we going to do this?
Well, I suppose we should. We've made it
back to Moral
now.
Agency. Moral Agency.
Oh yeah.
Back to Moral Agency. I suppose for the benefit of people who've just joined us for the first time, should we retread the same steps we did before, but just quickly? So anyway, we started off. We were doing a stream on. Stizer was doing a stream, and then a load of vegans arrived, and, and then Stizer and Mark. Wasn't it, Mark? Them two were up against, I think, both of you and Ellie, was it?
Ellie, yeah.
And there was a high-spirited debate about veganism, and
basically it ended up a massive brawl, is what you mean.
Yeah. Hitler was invoked more than once.
Well, I don't want to actually repeat that. That was shameful, but I won't repeat that.
No. We won't repeat it. But basically, it got bad. It got a bit fractious,
But we're going to have things nice and mild and centre ground and Lib Dem over here on Angel's channel.
Very Lib Dem.
Very Lib Dem. So to start with, then, I suppose I'm kind of taking over hosting this, Angels. That's a bit rude of me, really.
Please,
okay.
Please
all right. I suppose then, to start off with, we should all go around and say where we stand when it comes to eating food or not. I'll start off. I am neither a vegan nor a vegetarian. I am a meat eater, a standard, or to be fair, mostly a crisp eater more than anything else, but a bit of meat in there from time to time.
All right. Can I go next?
Go for it.
Yeah.
All right. I am. I eat basically pretty much like there's nothing much that I don't eat. I'm like not one of those fussy eaters, so therefore by nature I do eat meat as well. But I'll be honest, I really am quite clueless when it comes to everything surrounding veganism. I know, of course, what it entails as far as dietary things and what people do and don't eat and stuff, same as vegetarianism, pescatarianism, and that kind of thing. But I just I know the basics, basically, if you know what I mean. I've never really bothered to sit down and learn a load about it. And I'll be honest with you, I love a nice bloody steak. I know that's gross. No, that's gross. It's probably quite controversial to chuck it out there, but I do. And I really do enjoy the odd bit of meat. I don't actually eat it the entire time. And I do like a lot of vegetarian rice dishes, pasta dishes and stuff. But that's basically where I'm coming from. And I'm well aware that I'm hypocritical, because could I sit there and slaughter animals? Absolutely not.
But I couldn't sit there and have the patience to grow some tomatoes either, for that matter. The whole agricultural sector, I don't want any part of it, to be honest. Gerard, where do you stand on? What do you eat, basically?
I'm a meat eater, though I do have a preference towards fish and chicken rather than red meat, and I have considered going vegetarian in the past, though I haven't went fully.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Kind of.
My name is Vohan V, and I'm a vegan, but I do like to eat meat. I mean, cock occasionally.
Let's not get back onto Tim Farron's big load, shall we? Moving on.
What's that going to do for your cholesterol?
Yeah, and I'm vegan as well. So.
And how long have you been vegan, by the way?
Since 2015. So
okay, so a couple of years.
Yeah, not too long.
3 years now. I'm like, oh, 2018. I keep forgetting we're in 2018. You're right. It does. Jack James is like, yeah, this is like AA, isn't it?
Let's introduce ourselves, guys.
Yeah, exactly. So go on.
I haven't eaten any meat in 5 years, 3 days.
Keep doing your Dimbleby. It's great.
Okay, so at the tail end of Stiser's stream, then we just started off our conversation. The plan was we were going to have a civil discussion about the differences between the beliefs of meat eaters and the beliefs of vegans, and that was the aspiration, at least. So we started off by saying, why is it that I eat meat? Why do I eat meat? And the first answer I had to give was, well, it tastes nice. That was probably logically the first thing that I'd say. Why do you eat meat? Because it tastes nice. And then I've forgotten the way the last conversation went. We basically got onto the issue of animals and moral. What was it? Moral
agency.
Moral agency. That was the one.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
Yes. So we'd said, well, you guys had said that it's not right to eat. It's not right to harm and kill animals, but then therefore eaters. That it's not right to do that because they can think and feel and they've got intelligence and the rest of it, and we have the moral agency to be able to say we ought not to be doing that. We should know better. Essentially, that was kind of what the argument was, right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and like I think I do feel like it's a bit like you just meant. Liam said, or in the chat, that there's not much of a difference in beliefs. I mean, most reasonable people are not going to want to like go out and torture animals unnecessarily. Most normal people don't take pleasure in, smashing kittens to shit with a baseball bat. You know what I mean? Obviously, like within reason, the vast majority of people are not going to enjoy that sort of thing. I think a lot of it stems from lack of awareness and the fact they just enjoy meat. I mean, they can walk into a supermarket, you get prepackaged meat, you pay for it, you leave, you cook it, you eat it, done. Like people don't think about it really in much more depth. I think, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, and that's kind of why we're here to, I guess, spread awareness. With these debates, it's about the people who are debating, but a lot of the times it's about the audience and what they get out of it, hearing both sides. So for people who are just curious about it or don't know much about it, I would say that, you know, these things kind of open up people's minds. So, you know, from your point of view, it seems like, you know, you have sympathy towards animals, unlike the last guy we debated. So I would ask you a simple question to start off with. It's a moral question. Do you believe in universal human rights?
Well, yes. I think I'm pretty sure that everybody reasonable sort of does, as a basic sort of concept. Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool.
Could I answer that as well and be a really annoying prick? My answer is as well. I believe in universal human rights, but I don't believe that they objectively exist in of themselves, if that makes sense. I don't think that there's some kind of an intrinsic human right that is sort of exists out there in the ether. I think that human rights are what we sit down and establish socially amongst other humans as being.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, for sure. And I accept that. And I think that's why I asked you guys specifically what you guys believe in, because I too believe that, you know, morals are subjective. All right, so to kind of take that further, because, you know, in an ideal world, we would extend those rights to animals. So I want to figure out what's holding you guys back from extending universal human rights to animals. If you understand that they're sentient creatures.
Okay.
You go ahead, Swiss, because I'm still thinking about this.
Sure. Yeah. Just before I answer, I just want to know what are we defining as being universal human rights? Because I think we'd said in the previous stream, obviously we're excluding stuff like, you know, we're not going to be silly and say animals are voting or going and having jobs or anything like that.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
what's the definition for
the sort of thing like you wouldn't want to do to a human? You know, the sort of thing you'd naturally grant to a human.
Right, just dignity, the ability to just live and let live.
Well, sorry, go on.
Yeah, so that's basically it. The ability to just live and let live. You know, like not causing unnecessary harm to another human.
Well, I guess to answer that, then I'd say probably fundamentally I wouldn't say we could afford the exact same rights to animals as humans, because that would mean we wouldn't be allowed to eat them, which I suppose is the really obvious argument we're going to be making here today, anyway. But I understand the sort of, you know, treat others as you like to be treated. I don't leave my house in the morning and go kick every pigeon I see and, you know, strangle some cats on the way, throw them in the bin, anything like that. Generally, I'm quite nice to animals that I come across. And I absolutely understand the hypocrisy that is coming, which is, why is it then that you're not going to strangle a cat, but you're perfectly happy to eat a chicken that's gone through a blender? You know, is that not a moral equivalent with being the same thing? I would argue that it isn't. I would say that I think eating other animals is something that not only other animals, but we as humans have done for many, many thousands, probably millions of years. So I feel that that's kind of built into what it is that we as living things do. I'll leave it at that for the time being.
Can I address that?
Yeah, go for it.
So the essentialist was is that you realize that the hypocrisy of it was that. Oh, sorry. Carry on. Let's just carry on the stream.
Yeah,
sorry.
I also kind of want to, thanks to Liam in the chat, just clarify the definition of universal human rights. I said to live and let live, but to specifically to basically not be killed or exploited. I wanted to add that into the definition. So would you guys agree to that? As far as just the humans are concerned.
I mean,
as far as... Go on,
like you wouldn't want to exploit your fellow human, or you wouldn't want to kill your fellow human, being that they're not bothering you.
No, of course not. But I do think though that to me there's a difference whether there should be or not. I don't regard animals in the same way as I do humans. I do to an extent, but I still, if it came down to me murdering, if I was locked in a room and there was like a dog and a fellow human being in there, and I had to kill one of them first, I would definitely kill the dog first, like hands down. And that's just being honest. I'm not saying that I wouldn't have respect for the feelings of an animal or whatever, but I don't view them on the same level. And I do think it's a bit like you were saying earlier, though. There is also different scales of things when it comes to sentience, basically, awareness, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure. So, specifically, as vegans, we're talking about sentient animals. So animals that have the ability to, have a subjective reality, have feelings, really.
Yeah,
yeah. And in your scenario, if you weren't in that room, you would obviously leave the animal and the human alone. Would you not?
Well, of course. I mean, of course, yeah. But I mean, I think that's exactly what I just said. I think that the vast majority of reasonable people, of course, they're not going to want to go out and start slaughtering animals or indeed harming other humans for, in the same vein. I just don't think that that's what people want to go out of their way to do if they're brought up correctly and stuff. So like, and of course, like you said, I don't know, was it you that you said some human beings say that have like severe mental issues when it comes to like their mental capacity, for example, like if somebody is particularly maybe mentally disabled, or they don't quite have the capacity to know quote unquote right from wrong, and then they end up doing something bad, would we judge them as harshly as somebody that's viewed as being, like sort of 100% perfectly fine, and isn't suffering from anything? Probably not. But so it's quite difficult, isn't it? Because it's such a sliding scale. I don't think it is just black and white.
For sure.
Yeah. What I would like to ask is what Liam Anthony has just prompted is what is the moral relevant factor for treating humans with moral consideration but not animals? So what is the relevant factor for doing something to animals?
Okay, well, I'd say we're sort of talking about blanket statements, like, as a rule, why would you not treat animals with the same moral consideration as humans? But there are degrees involved even between animals and humans. Like I treat humans with moral consideration, but I don't always treat humans with moral consideration. There have been plenty of times in probably all of our lives where we haven't treated our fellow man or woman with moral consideration, and I'd say
there's usually justifications for that.
Yeah, and but the same goes for animals. Like, just because I think it's okay to eat meat does not mean that I don't treat some animals in some situations with moral consideration. Like, I have a cat who lives in the house. I'm not likely to do anything shitty to him anytime soon. So I'm just challenging the statement in itself to say we're kind of making sort of a blanket rule here, saying why is it okay not to treat animals with consideration, but you do treat humans? I treat both of them with consideration, but it's different consideration in different situations, to be quite honest.
Yeah, that's
so
why.
Okay, sorry, but you went to taste before, so you're not granting them moral consideration because of taste. Is that fair to say?
What, that I'm not treating? Sorry, would you mind repeating that? That was my mistake.
Yeah, no worries. So before you said you eat animals for taste. So I'm saying you're not granting them moral consideration because of taste. Is that correct?
Yes, I suppose when you frame it in that way, that would be a correct assessment. If what you're saying is, I gave a reason for why I eat meat as being I like the taste of meat. Okay. We follow on logically from that for me to eat meat, that means there has to have been an animal that's been killed in the process. So then am I permitting the fact that the reason I like to eat, I like the taste of it, does that somehow make it morally justifiable that the animal's been killed for that purpose? Is that basically the question then?
Yeah, that's basically the question. And the next question I'd pose to you is, what if you could eat humans and they tasted great? Would you not grant them moral consideration because you could eat them and they taste good?
Well, by all accounts, they taste a bit like pork. Not that I have loads of cannibal friends or anything, because I sound like a right weirdo saying that.
Okay.
But
Well, I
I
mean,
had a
yeah. I mean, it's been done. It's been done in history that there has been accounts of cannibalism. So I'm asking you, if that was socially acceptable, would you consider that moral to eat humans?
to slaughter a fellow human and then eat them. No.
Okay. So then why apply it in the animal context?
Well, because it's not like I said, I don't actually regard animals and humans as the exact same thing. I can see up to a level that they are, but I think that this is an entirely different thing, because if we think about it, well, I suppose it's arguable in some cases, but let's say that humans are the cleverest animals on this planet, right?
Mhm.
This means that by definition they're hyper aware, they're feeling their sort of sense of what's going on and things like that is far higher than a lot of other species. And I just and the fact that obviously it's just a fellow human being, it's a little bit different. I understand that we live with animals and stuff, but it is still a different thing.
Okay. So you're
Oh.
basically saying, okay, we're in the same species. We're all in this together as humans. And animals are outside.
And also it was a bit like, well, going back to what you said about awareness and that kind of thing. I think that knowing that one of your fellow humans is going to be that hyper aware and that kind of thing, it just automatically makes it immoral, doesn't it? It goes against everything that we're taught. That, not to mention the fact that isn't there something quite bizarre? Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't have facts to back this up, but I'm pretty sure I've heard it somewhere, that it's like an animal eating the meat of the same animal is somehow really bad.
It is, and that's funny. That came up in the debate before with Mark, but he kind of glossed over it. But in a health context. But yeah, it's not necessarily a good healthy thing. A cow's natural food is grass, not another cow.
Yeah, no, of course.
Or
Exactly.
in that specific example, it was a chicken. There's been studies to show that in mass, in these slaughterhouses with the chickens, they'll feed them feather meal, and feather meal is basically ground up chicken parts, which they feed back to the chickens, which can lead to arsenic in the chicken supply. I know that's a little off topic, but
no, but it's along the same sort of lines, is what I'm saying, because it's a bit like when I have a problem with because I used to keep birds, and they say that birds can have can nibble on small amounts of chicken sometimes, like parrot family, and also boiled eggs and stuff, and I just found that really fucked up. Like, I was just not happy with that at all. Like, something just went off in my brain where I was like, I'm not feeding my birds. Like, it just felt wrong.
Right, a little Soylent Green moment there.
Yeah.
Can I answer the question?
Sure.
The one about eating other people. I'd say, to be honest, I think there's a cultural factor that needs to be thought about here, because I said, why do you eat meat? Because it tastes nice. But I wouldn't eat all and every meat as a blanket universal rule. Like, for example, I eat chicken and bacon. But culturally, it's very unlikely I'll be interested in trying dog anytime soon. It's popular with the Koreans, but over here, not so much man's best friend.
Would you try kangaroo?
Would I try kangaroo?
Yeah, I mean, I'd pretty much try anything, to be honest. But which is
I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, we could go through.
Can I ask a hypothetical?
Sure.
If I had fake meat, that's tastes the same as normal meat in
exactly
every
the same
conceivable way.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, every conceivable way. But it was synthetically made, and you knew it.
As long as there was no shit in it and stuff, like no, it wasn't like pumped full of colorings and God knows what.
But are we talking
it was exactly the same to the atomic T. Like, atomically, it was exactly the same. And then they had normal meat that was used by killing an animal. I mean, which one would you have?
So
which one would you choose?
Do you want to go first, Angels?
Normal meat that you're used to having, and then I had an synthetically made meat.
Okay.
That was made atomically to the same degree.
Okay, so you're saying So you're saying it would have all the exact same like benefits and or non-benefits,
All the same atoms. It was
fat and
made.
this and that. Okay, fine. Well then, yeah. I mean, I don't see why I wouldn't eat it, providing it was still a nice juicy steak, whatever.
Okay.
And yeah, the same goes for me. If we're talking taste, texture, nutrition, all the rest of it, it's exactly the same. Then of course I would. But within my diet as it goes currently, although I eat meat, I also from time to time eat corn products. Not because of any specific, vegetarian or veganist leaning in me, but just simply because it's there. It tastes all right. It's easy to cook. So I already do eat some meat. What alternatives? I already eat some meat alternatives within my diet, so I'm not against those.
Yeah, but they've got chicken periods in, kid.
Oh, what, the corn products?
Yeah, they got chicken periods in.
Oh well, shit! I don't get any vegan points today, do I? All right, fair dues then.
Some are vegan.
Yeah, they
the
are.
point I was trying to make anyway was I'm already open to eating alternatives to meat. That was what I was trying to say.
No, but much props because we debate a lot of people and they're not honest. You two are very honest and very open, and you're not trying to be obtuse. You're just being honest people, which is very it's refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, we're not really the most confrontational out of the chat. Like,
no, that's Stiles' job. He does all the confrontation for all of us.
We've got a few others who could be a bit confrontational, and to be fair, I can as well. I'm just too tired, and I feel about 150 today, so I'm just not in the mood. But no, I the reason why I think I am quite open about it is like I said to you, I obviously have an opinion, but it's such a basic one because I've never sat down properly, debated it, discussed it, looked into it in depth, and sort of looked at all the ins and outs of it. So basically, I know the basics of the diet, and that's about it. You know what I mean? So it's actually quite nice to sit down and have a discussion about it.
Yeah, we approach, I guess we're approaching this the same sort of way we tend to approach talking about politics on my YouTube channel, which is, everyone starts off from the position of, if you've got a belief or something that you do, clearly that's because you believe it to be correct, and therefore you must believe other people to be wrong. But the point is, you don't need to sit there screaming at one another going, I'm right, you're wrong, etc., because that's already understood mutually, because everyone knows there's a disagreement, otherwise we wouldn't be discussing anything. So the very least we can do after that is be truthful and civil with one another. So
yeah, totally
cool.
I know.
Yeah, I kind of want to get back to what you're saying about the culture.
Yes,
you said you don't eat certain types of meats because it's not in the culture.
Sure, yeah,
something you're used to. So I would say to that, in different cultures, different things are accepted that aren't necessarily morally right. In certain cultures, in past cultures, there's been things like slavery. So appealing to culture to consume meat isn't necessarily a good thing, I would say.
If I may just quickly, I was appealing to culture to say why I might not choose to eat humans even if they tasted good, because I might not choose to eat dog or tarantulas even if they taste good. That was the point I was making on culture.
I'd probably give tarantulas a go, to be honest. But let me have a quick. James just said up the chat. He was right as well. In other parts of the world, dogs and cats are treated like shit and have hardly any right, but other animals are treated like we treat them. So on that level, I think it is to do with culture, because I do think that, of course, depending on the culture itself, the country, the dominant religions, if any, indeed, and that kind of thing, and just general tradition, things do change quite enormously.
For sure.
So I think that's something which is a huge factor. It's like when you go to places that are certainly far less well off and not don't you find sort of loads of meats, for example, that a lot of countries in the West would never even consider eating. Like, you can stop off in I think it was Uganda, and and you can like buy roasted rats on the side of the road for a snack. You know what I mean? And that is like just a done thing. Like you just literally pull up on a dusty road and get a roast rat, and then you eat it and you move on. I'm not saying like everywhere in Uganda is like that, but like really sort of that like the really sort of off the beaten track places there. Because my dad was working there and regularly used to come across those types of thing. And it's like the local he was working in he worked like alongside Oxfam, but he was also helping to restore drinking water in the region, and it was really kind of in the middle of nowhere in the really small town, and there was this one tavern thing which did like one vegetarian dish, one meat dish every night, and then he was like, oh, you know, what is there on the menu tonight? And it was either meat stew or bean stew, and he was like, given the fact that I couldn't even identify what the meat was, I just went for the bean stew every night.
Yeah. No. My girlfriend's from Kenya, and she goes back to Kenya every now and again, and like she often says like the majority of her family are pretty much vegan.
Yeah.
Like out of necessity, because it's just the cheapest. It's just like meat is a luxury. They only have it like once a blue moon, like on special occasions.
Yeah.
Like birthdays and stuff like that sort of thing. They might buy a chicken and kill it on birthdays and that, but throughout the year they're vegan. It's just economical reasons, really.
And also probably the fact that it's not like, it's like they don't also often, depending on where, obviously, like, but the more remote places just don't have access to like a decent identifiable meat products kind of thing as well. So it just depends on where you are. But I don't know. I'm not against. It's a bit like you just said. If there were meat alternatives which are as good, because I'll be honest, I tried quite a few of them, and I don't think they're the same. They don't taste the same to me. I'm not anti them. I've had stir fries like Swiss with like.
Oh no,
whatever.
Angel, you've got to try. There's some fucking killer fucking meat alternatives now. I'm telling you, but you got to try Linda McCartney burgers.
I've tried Linda
Morrison's
McCartney's
usually
stuff before, but I don't think it was the sausages or the burger. It was like something else. I can't remember what it was, but
right.
that was pretty
Linda
okay. I have to admit.
Linda McCartney burgers are fucking insane, like insane good. And you want to try the German shit? There's this company called Fries. Morrison stock it a lot in the sort of like free from range, and oh my god, so good. Chicken nuggets, so good.
Well, I like the supermarket near me is like massive, like stocks loads of like, you know, sort of because it's Waitrose, of course. Is there anything else? But like has but what I mean is because it caters for that sort of thing. There's a lot of like people in there with healthy lifestyles, and they love their kale smoothies and all that kind of stuff. So like you do tend to get quite good like or quite a lot of, you know, meat substitute products and stuff that are both fresh and frozen, and they'll do like vegan pies and things, you know, and they're all fairly good quality. I mean, I've tried a few, but I don't know, they're never quite the same. They never seem to taste quite the same.
But I mean,
okay, but I just kind of want to bring it back to where we stand as vegans. That just kind of comes back to taste, where you're slaughtering a sentient being for taste, and it just doesn't taste that good. The alternative, saying something like that isn't really a good justification.
No, it isn't. You're right, and it's very hypocritical because it's
so why not start to make the change? You just said you live next to a huge supermarket. You know, try to get some more plant-based options. There's lentils, black beans, and you guys talked about the meat alternatives, all the fruits and vegetables, different types of grains, nuts and seeds. It's all the information's out there. It's just about, you know, education. The vegan diet is suitable for all stages of life, and if anything, it's a very healthy diet if planned properly. So there's no real reason not to consider it, considering the fact that now you're thinking about the moral implications of your food choices, and beyond that, even environmental, your environmental impact. So, you could definitely make a change for the better here.
Yeah, it'd be very Lib Demish, wouldn't it?
Well, they rip me to shreds the whole time, take the piss out of me for being a Lib Dem. Well, Swiss was after a Lib Dem for ages, and then I just magically rocked up one day, and so it just sort of all fell into place. But yeah, they always take the piss out of me for being like a Remainer and a Lib Dem and God knows what. So why not? They can take the piss out of me for trying vegan food and shopping more in Waitrose.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I'd like to say one thing, though. The whole thing about taste. I'd said originally, you'd said, "Why do you eat meat?" I said, "Because it tastes good." Taste isn't the only reason that a person eats meat, though. In fact, it's not even especially the main reason. The main reason that a person or any animal, for that matter, would eat meat is because it's food stuff that contains nutrition to be alive. It scientifically is more the primal reason why someone would eat meat, rather than the taste is more aesthetic than anything else. Now I understand
that's not necessarily true. As humans, we discovered fire and we cooked our meat for a better taste. But not only that, we kind of season our meat with plant-based seasonings like black pepper and basil and paprika. Those are actually plants that we're using to make the actual raw meat taste better. So if you think about it, it's the plants that make things taste better. It's not raw meat. You wouldn't just grab a squirrel and just start eating the squirrel.
Oh, I certainly wouldn't. No, and I'd certainly want to cook it for that matter first. I know that some people they think like, I don't know, people have steaks, like they have them rare, like it's a delicacy where they just don't cook them at all, and I don't like that personally.
Mine don't really see much of the pan, I have to admit, which I know loads of people are really grossed out at. But I don't think that taste is the main reason, just much like you said. But I think who was it you just said? Yeah, Neil said that it's just the convenience factor as well. This goes back to what I was saying. You walk into a supermarket, everything's nicely packaged, nothing really looks like dead animal. You just go in and you get it, and then you go home and you cook it, and it tastes great, right? So I think that it's such a cultural thing now, whereby that's just how meat is. That it's just become the norm. I reckon there would be so many more vegans if everybody had to slaughter their own animals.
I think you're probably right there.
Well, yeah, because if there were no abattoirs and no slaughterhouses and what have you, and nobody to nicely mince up all the sausage meat and all this and put it in these lovely Waitrose finest packs or whatever they are, then people literally had to go out and start killing animals. No way would so many people want to do that. Like, by default, there would be so many more vegetarians than vegans.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But, still, we haven't really heard a justification yet on why it's morally acceptable to eat animals if we don't need to eat animals.
Sure. Well, I think it depends. Well, first of all, I think it depends on what your moral basis is, because I think people have different moralities with it. But because I think, are you referencing the comment from Liam, who said there are a lot of reasons why you eat meat, you were raised, culture, etc. We are asking for the moral justification for killing an individual who can experience and wants to live. Now, for morals specifically, I think that's difficult, because I think veganism is arguably predicated on a slightly separate set of morals than non-vegans, perhaps, but we can debate that in a moment if you'd like. But what I'd say is, as far as justification in general goes, I'd say, well, because we have eaten meat in the past, we are able to eat meat. The animals out there in the animal kingdom continue to eat one another. I understand, the moral argument of whether they know better for what they're doing or not. But if we're talking about general justification, I'd say, because it's been the way of life on Earth for millions of years that animals eat one another, we as humans have done so for thousands of years, and we are able to do so and continue to do so today. Now, that isn't a moral justification. I'll absolutely accept that point. We can debate the morality of it in a moment. But as far as the justification for why it's done, that's what I'll lay out for you right there, because it has been forever, essentially.
I would say that was an appeal to nature.
Well, okay.
So
you said earlier I had an appeal to culture and now an appeal to nature. Are there certain categories here I'm not allowed to mention? Or
Well, it just kind of shows inconsistency. When you said you appeal to nature, a lot of things happen in nature that aren't necessarily good. Like, for instance, rape happens in nature. Does that make rape good?
But I'd say that the reason that rape and eating other animals are slightly different is because well, I don't know actually. Does some animals have to rape in order to procreate? I hear ducks do apparently.
I mean, yeah.
Well, I'm talking about the actual act. Like,
Okay.
you're talking about the actual act of meeting. It happens in nature, therefore it's good. But what I'm trying to get at is other things happen in nature that aren't good.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't trying to say that eating meat was good. I wasn't trying to apply a moral good or evil compass to it. I was simply saying it happens, and it has happened, and it continues to happen.
Okay,
That was the point I was making. Whereas, as far as humans, us as a species are concerned, I don't think historically
Is it an appeal to tradition, not appeal to nature? Because we've done something for so long, it's a part of our tradition.
Okay, well, I suppose you could say it's both, because I was talking about not just, the human lifespan of us and agriculture, but more so our entire ancestry tree back to being in the ocean, for that matter.
Yeah, so what I would like to say is, if we consider ourselves like, sentient beings, yeah. When we're conscious creatures, yeah.
Yeah.
We can experience a subjective reality.
Depends how many wines I've had, but yeah.
But yes.
I'm sort of on that wavelength of what Angel's saying now. I've had many wines, in a sense.
Oh, I haven't had enough. But anyway, carry on.
But what I'm saying is,
go on.
If humans, yeah,
humans, yeah,
humans, yeah.
If
they want to do something to other animals, then we need to name a difference in animals that is not present in. So basically, we need to name a trait. We need to name a trait in animals that's not present in humans that justifies us doing this into other animals. That otherwise, if it was present if that trait was present in humans, we wouldn't do that to humans.
Are we sort of trying to do is this a sort of a golden rule thing?
No.
Sorry.
It's a question. It's a question. He wants you to name a trait in animals.
I want you to name a trait that's present in animals that, if it was present in humans, you wouldn't. That would justify you not doing whatever action to humans.
So you're saying name a trait in animals that would justify us slaughtering them, essentially?
Yes.
Okay.
But for that reason, that you're justifying doing this to humans, then you would have to name that trait into. No, for that justification that you're doing that for animals, you would have to name a trait.
Apply it to humans as well?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's easy for me. Voting Conservative.
Okay, well then I can say, well,
no, I am kidding. Look, I'm kidding. Yeah, okay. Is there a trait in particular? I would say, yeah, but again, because you're asking me or indeed everyone, to apply the same level of sort of kind of consideration to both humans and animals, whereas whether you view it as right or wrong or not, or whether indeed other people do, not everybody does view humans and animals the exact same, because it's a sliding scale. That's a very difficult thing to answer, and different people are going to have different answers to it.
Yeah, if I'll be completely honest, and I've seen it being posed again in the comments here. Name a trait absent in animals, which, if absent in humans, would allow us to kill and eat humans. I'm struggling. I'm not trying to be dense here whatsoever. I'm struggling to follow it a tiny bit.
No,
it might be the wording.
No, it's just because it's a new concept here, right?
Yeah,
So
I
what we're
think I'm being
saying-
a bit slow as well, to be honest.
No,
'cause
it's just because it's a new. We're forming something that, and this is very common. We're saying something to you that you've not come across before. So essentially, if you were to say, "Oh, right," we say name a trait, yeah, that allows you to do this to animals, but not humans. And you say, "Okay, well, intelligence,"
Okay,
and
right.
then we would say, "Well, intelligence doesn't really work because you could get, retarded humans," and you wouldn't say, "Oh yeah, we can harvest them for food." And then you might say, okay, well, anything. It could be anything, absolutely anything. And we're just trying to say, name a trait that justifies it. And you could say, well, they're not humans. And then we would say, for example, well, if another entity came and did this to us, would that be okay? And that sort of thing.
Okay, well, it certainly wouldn't be okay from our perspective, and I'm sure that any animal that's being killed for the purpose of food isn't very happy with it from their perspective either. But okay, I'm going to try and follow this through the way that you framed it anyway, because I do want to answer the question. So, one final time for me, if you can, name a trait that makes it okay to eat animals, which, if applied to humans, it wouldn't be okay to eat. Shit. Maybe I've had a few too many as well.
I wish I
Name a
had.
trait absent in animals, which, if absent in humans, would allow us to kill and eat humans.
Okay. So what are animals lacking, which means it's fine for us to eat them? But if that was lacking in humans, would it therefore be okay for us to eat them?
Yes.
Okay, then humanity.
So,
can you define humanity?
The state of being a human being.
Yeah, that's a really
Species,
good
yeah.
answer. You can't argue with that.
So
That is-
our species.
Yeah, that is the answer to the question. Animals lack being
Okay, well-
human, and if humans lack
And
being human, they wouldn't be human. Therefore, they'd be animals.
Okay, well then I'd say, what if an entity that was other than human
Wanted to
came
kill us.
and did that to us? Would that be justified?
Well, it depends which end of the fork you're on, doesn't it? If you are the
No,
if,
well, we're asking you, how would you feel if a greater entity than humans came and wanted to kill and eat you? Would that be morally okay for them to
not
do
even
that?
you, just other humans. I mean, in another part of the world. I mean, what would your view on that be?
I'd think it would be absolutely wrong.
Why is that?
Okay, so then you can't appeal to humanity. Then you can't appeal to species.
Where how exactly does that follow though?
Because your morals aren't consistent. You don't accept it. You don't accept an outside entity coming out and wiping out the human race.
Well, I don't have much of a say in that though, do I? I don't accept the
don't,
volcano
but
erupting
you don't
and killing
accept
everyone
it.
for that matter as well.
Right. So the
but-
animal
but-
don't have
okay,
much of a
but
say.
let me reframe it then. Okay, but if I were one of those entities, let's say they're super space aliens or whatever, if I were one of those aliens, then I would probably find it absolutely justified to wipe out all the humans.
Okay,
Because
well,
I'd be in a
let me
different
put it a
position
different way to you, Swiss. Right. For all you know, I am 7 foot. I weigh 20 stones, full of muscle. I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I decide now I want to I want to rape you.
Okay.
Because I can. Am I justified in doing that?
Because you can rape me, are you justified in raping me?
Yeah.
I'm going to say no to that one.
How did we? Oh dear.
It's on topic though. It's on topic.
Yeah, I know.
Why am I not justified in doing that? I can do it, just like the aliens can do that to humans. Why am I not justified in doing that?
Was that
Well, us human beings, we sort of have a common understanding with one another that we're not really supposed to rape each other because it's an infringement of it's an infringement of what human rights are essentially. Isn't it?
Have you watched Dragon Ball Z?
I do. I fucking love Dragon Ball Z.
Alright, I'm Goku, and I decided to rape Captain Switzerland, and no one can stop me. The whole world army can't stop me because I'm that strong.
See, I thought that was a reference to South Park, where they had like the anal probes, where the aliens came down and they were like, do you remember that one? But no, I mean, of course that's not okay. But then it's like you were saying, though, right? As people have developed and human beings, arguable in some cases, as I said previously, but are the most advanced, or at least intelligent to a level that we have a hyper awareness for things and a hyper awareness for what's right and wrong with our fellow human beings, then there's no real excuse for it.
Yeah,
do you see what I mean?
That's I understand. But let's get back onto point. Right, we're talking descriptively. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, basically, name the trait wasn't answered yet because you appealed to species, and you basically.
Oh, right. So saying that humans, like, we're going just specifically for humans and not
right, and that's when you kind of went off topic.
Sorry, I helped you on that because I started to go on to
Dragon Ball Z and anal probes.
Dragon Ball Z rape.
I'll come back to the trait thing then, because to be honest, at first the whole trait question, it felt like a riddle that I was really trying to search for the answer to, and humanity felt like the best one for it. But I don't know. Again, I'm hearing sort of these phrases: appeal to species, appeal to nature, appeal to tradition. Are these? It's sounding to me like there are certain arguments or justifications that have already been cordoned off with a big red stamp saying, "Nope, you're not allowed."
No, it's just that they end up being not consistent logically. Because if you accept something in one context, you wouldn't accept it in the other. So, for instance, when you appeal to when you appeal to tradition, in tradition they fed Christians to lions. You wouldn't think that's acceptable now, but in tradition they did it. They used to do it, so that's where these phrases come from. If you're appealing to something,
but there seems to be a sort of an all or nothing thing there, though. It's kind of like we're saying either all tradition is okay or no tradition is okay.
I mean, it's partly Switzers because we've went through these arguments many times before, and
so you're bored of my shit because you've already heard it, basically.
Well, we're essentially applying the answers before you can get to a conclusion yourself, which is slightly unfair. Essentially,
it's a good thought process. It's a good thought exercise.
Oh, it feels like, just quickly, I'll say, it feels like I'm a mouse running around in a maze, and I keep turning around corners and realizing, shit, that one's blocked off. Got to go back. No,
but let's keep it simple. We just want to hear your justification for killing animals. What is it? What is it? This is what we want to know.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you a very blunt justification, and I'd like to emphasize, I'm not saying this is a moral justification. Okay, I'm just saying this is an overall justification, which is that we can, and we do. In a sense, that's all the justification.
Might makes right, because we have the power men have the power to overpower women and hurt them.
Going back to
that makes it
Goku
right.
being the rapist again now.
Yeah, well, I think look. If you want if you want a moral justification for killing animals for food sources in order to eat them, then the issue is, right, we're saying there's no moral justification for it, right? We're saying that fundamentally that's the argument you're making. There's no moral justification for humans killing animals for the purpose of eating them. It just shouldn't be done. But then we have animals killing one another for food, as all living things have done for millions of years. But we say, no, it's okay in that situation because the animals don't have moral agency, so they don't know any better for what they're doing. So I suppose then this is the point that I'd make then. So because there's this leap between us and the animals, right? And we're saying, okay, the animals don't have moral agency. They don't know any better, but we do. We do know better than the animals. Therefore, we should all take the decision not to kill and eat any animals simply because we're intelligent enough to know that we wouldn't like it to be done to us. I'm not entirely sure if I'm convinced that as the entire, as the crux of the argument is enough to say, and people should stop eating meat because we're intelligent enough to know that the animals don't like it. Basically, when eating meat is the way of, half of the things alive in the world.
It's not half the things that are alive in the world.
No, I made that up. But basically, animals eating one another.
20% of the things alive in the world.
Okay, animals eating one another has gone on since animals existed.
You understand that certain animals are carnivores and they need the meats. Humans don't need meats. Like a lion needs to hunt and kill to survive, to live a lion's life. We could survive, without eating any type of animal product.
Oh yes.
So you're saying because it's not necessary. Sorry, I'm not addressing stuff in the side chat. I know I should be, and I will read up in a second. But I just want to say, what about how do you fall on? So basically, there is no reason why. Certainly the wealthier people in the West who have access to multiple food sources and everything's nicely packaged in lovely local Waitrose. There's no real reason why people have to eat meat. That I'd agree with, of course, because we're not starving. That's why people have pets. They don't go around slaughtering them, because they don't need to. But there are parts of the world, albeit very, very remote parts and much less, obviously, where they physically can't get their hands on only plant stuff to eat. But there are parts of the world where just to survive, they will regularly slaughter animals, cook them and eat them, right? Where do you fall on that? Because I think that's reasonable, personally.
Yeah, well, if a human needs to survive, if they're in the wilderness and the only food source they could have is hunting an animal, then you would have to hunt that animal. But I'm talking about veganism in a society where there's supermarkets, there's the choice, and it's simple.
So you're saying it is morally fine to slaughter animals as long as you absolutely have to?
If you're in a survival situation, just like it's morally fine if I get attacked by a bunch of bees and I want to get the bees off of me, I would swat the bees. I would get them away from me. There's I'm not talking about these off situations about these tribal cultures. I'm talking about modern countries that this huge animal agriculture industry supplies to. We could choose not to be a part of it.
And also, when Swiss, just very quickly before you jump in,
sure.
When Swiss brought up earlier, I sort of eat the meat because it's already dead and it's in the pack. See, I've always thought to that. When I've thought about that sort of mentality, I thought, well, yeah, but then the demand's bigger, so of course more animals then get slaughtered, so it's like a cycle. So I suppose the less demand there is, the less animals are slaughtered, the less meat there is in supermarkets because it's not needed. It's the whole supply and demand thing, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
So even though that used to be something that I thought it would, I suddenly realised that actually that's the reason why meat is so sort of prevalent, So yeah, I don't think that there is an absolute silver bullet to say this is it's morally right because A, I think different things matter to different people, but B, I think that of course we don't need roast beef and Yorkshire puddings on a Sunday. We don't need like the odd steak like I have, or we don't absolutely need a bacon sandwich unless you're Ed Miliband. But
I can make you all those things vegan, Angel.
Yeah, but I mean, would they actually taste the same? That's what it comes down to. I mean, I'm open to giving it a go.
When I make them, they'll taste
fantastic. We'll give it a go. But like I said, there's other foods you can eat that are like whole foods.
My Yorkshire puds,
I'll
make you do unholy things.
Yorkshire puds are actually really, really yum.
I don't even know what those are. What are those?
Oh my god! I swear to God, you have not lived.
Like
Yorkshire?
they're like English as fuck pancakes, but on a Sunday
Mm.
dinner.
Okay. So they're not vegan.
Yeah, you can have them vegan. They don't need
You
to
can make
have
them
meat in
vegan,
them.
yeah. You can make
Well,
them
there
vegan.
you go.
I actually, weirdly, I had some vegan Yorkshire puddings the other day because I bought them by mistake.
I make mine from scratch. I make all my food from scratch. It's so good. Oh, I've become such a good chef since I've become vegan.
Have you?
I'm insane. Oh,
Yeah, you see, I'm a good cook, but I'm a bit heavy on the sort of. I don't actually have meat in everything. There's quite a lot of what I call, say, vegetarian, not necessarily vegan, but a lot of vegetarian dishes that I make.
well, yeah. So I still live with my mother. I know the Americans are going to shame me, but it's the economic state of Britain at the moment. Where lots of adult males live with their mothers still.
Ground floor or basement level?
Well, ground floor. We don't have basements here, do we?
No,
I don't. But anyway, when I went vegan, like 2.5 years ago, my mum said, "Well, you can fucking cook for yourself then." So I did, and I love it. I love cooking for myself.
Do you think that a lot of that is because you sort of have to be a bit more creative because obviously you don't go for a lot of what is like, the standard food in supermarkets and stuff?
At first, yeah, but there's so much options now. I mean, there's vegan cheese, and at first the cheese was a bit shit, and then it got a bit better. At first it was like fucking cardboard, and then it got a bit better. It was more like American cheese, which is shit. And then Tesco came up with this coconut cheese shit, and coconut cheddar, and it was like, holy shit, this is fucking cheese.
Oh, so it actually is nice now because wasn't it like?
Oh yeah, at first it was like cardboard. It was
Mm.
ridiculously bad. If you're in Tesco or anything, try or maybe probably Waitrose, what you go to, probably have their own, because they probably all share the same fucking manufacturer. I don't know how it works, but try a coconut cheddar that they do. I think Sainsbury's has it as well. Coconut cheddar, pretty
okay.
fucking good. It tastes like a cheese, like a different type of cheese. So if you're a cheese fan, give it a go.
Yeah, I'm a massive cheese fan, but like also,
Yeah, give it a go.
yeah, I will do. But I tend to on cereal. I tend to have quite a lot of like almond milk, coconut milk and stuff. Anyway, but that's just because I really like it.
Hazelnut milk.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, that's much thicker and creamier.
Oh, I love hazelnut milk.
There you go. Those are all the right steps,
Well, I've had that for years on like cereal and stuff, but I don't always eat cereal. I'm one of those people, like I'm quite happy to have substitutes for stuff, and I do have them. I'm just not militant about it. I'm not like massively.
And Jack Daniels is vegan, don't you?
Jack Daniels is vegan.
Yeah.
Jack Daniels is so offensive to me. I had the worst experience on it when I was 17. I'm never going back there.
You've got a bottle of it in your avatar?
No, that's like an angel swigging out the bottle with a pack of fags on the side. So it's basically...
That's Jack Daniels, that.
I was like, that is right up my street.
So it looks like a bourbon of some sort, anyway.
It is, but that avatar...
I'm drinking Jim Beam at the moment, anyway.
God, don't you lot
Mr.
are all just
Bean.
making me jealous with your boozing. I'm out of booze now anyway. Well, I'm actually sitting in bed. It's nearly 4:15. Anyway, carry on. So Swiss, carry on.
Oh God, I've forgotten what I was going to say at this point. That was a while back now.
Sorry, did I derail it?
No,
I apologize. So I'd like to ask some questions.
Go for it, yeah.
So, Captain.
Yes.
You're a Labour supporter like me, yeah?
Yes.
How much do you love Jezza?
A fair bit.
Yeah, me too. Just a fair bit.
7 out of 10. Yeah.
Oh, that's quite a bit.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's a tricky one. The problem is that Corbyn and friends, there's a lot of true believers. There's a lot of diehards who will see no wrong and speak no, what's it? See no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil.
Oh yeah.
And all the rest of it. And I'm always trying to question myself whether I go, am I giving Corbyn too much time of day on this thing? And am I only seeing things from one biased perspective or another? But I was on board with Team Jez from basically like the week that the Labour leadership election started in 2015. So I was one of the early adopters of the whole Corbyn shit.
I mean, we've got some libertarians from America here. That probably want to have it out with you.
Oh, so, well, but by all means,
should we invite them in?
Sure, yeah. I mean, political discussions are more my bread and butter than veganism anyway.
Liam, get in here.
Veganism.
Yeah, no, he's anti-social. He's an anti-socialist. I've had it out with him, and to be honest, he kind of agrees with me. Liam, are you coming in?
I'll tackle a couple of the comments real quick.
Can I post the chat? Oh no, I can't. Can I? Because I'm on mod.
Well, one of us can post it in a sec. I'll just say quickly, Blue Morpho said, is this a conversation on veganism anymore? I don't think it is. I think we may have just about moved on at this point.
Well, to be honest, these guys don't really oppose it, do you?
No, I mean, well, I don't really see how somebody could oppose it. It's not like someone could go, you're so bad for not slaughtering animals and eating them. Like,
but then how can you support it then?
Yeah, you haven't really justified your actions here.
Yeah, but I've said straight off the bat that I'm a hypocrite.
And I'd say I don't think they can be justified on the metric that you're using to measure them by.
Yeah, exactly.
What metric would you prefer, Switz?
Well, fundamentally, there is, because we're talking about morals, right? Liam in the chat keeps saying, I still haven't heard a moral justification.
Yeah, but we've said that there's not a moral.
Yeah, and I'd say there is no moral justification. I'm not trying to backtrack out to a super nihilist perspective here, but I said for starters when we were talking about human rights, I don't believe there are intrinsic human rights that exist out there in the ether. They're things that are they're agreed upon by us in a sort of a social contract.
Yeah. But you still want humans to, like, for example, not be murdered, not be raped, and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, you're quite right. But I suppose I'll get to the point where I guess
we can bootstrap animal ethics from your moral ethics of humans.
But that's where I think the disagreement lies between us. Then it's applying the same
same. I mean, it's not the same. I mean, there's different parameters. So, for example, raping a rabbit is not as bad as raping a human. Yeah. It's still bad.
Yeah.
It's still bad. Yeah,
I'd say that raping a rabbit is not as bad as raping a human.
I mean,
we can all agree it's a bad action, though. Yeah.
But if I may, I'll just quickly say, raping a rabbit is not as bad as raping a human. From the human's perspective, sure. From any human's perspective, sure.
No.
From the rabbit's perspective, they're probably none too pleased. And
No. And can I elaborate? What?
Sure.
Can I elaborate?
Yeah.
So, from any perspective, it's bad. For any subjective reality conscious being, having that done to them is bad. A human will experience worse negative, connotations to that and emotions, and will have worse repercussions to that action. But that's because they're a higher moral agent. But still, doing that to a rabbit is bad. So then we got to think about, well, why do we chop their fucking heads off? Like, sort of thing. And then that's what I would say about that.
Well, I mean, people hunt rabbits for fun, though, don't they? So that's also wrong, I suppose. People
I
culling
mean, yeah.
rabbits. But, oh, yeah, this is another interesting one. Because people do go around shooting rabbits and then eating them, but often
Yeah,
it's to save crops and things, which are
Oh,
then
yeah.
produced and then obviously sold.
Oh,
is
yeah.
that okay? To stop entire fields of like vegetables or whatever, or plants?
No, I mean, the goal here is to reduce suffering. You know, by eating crops, we're not directly eating the animals, and we understand that there might be certain animal deaths in the yield of crops. You know, just like we accept transportation in cars. You know, there might be people dying in car accidents, but we still accept that as a part of human society. So,
Yeah.
as vegans, we know that if we eat kale or spinach or whatever crop, there might have been some deaths in the field, but it's not
Oh,
a
yeah.
direct kill. When you eat a piece of chicken, you're eating like literally a dead body right off the bat.
Yeah. But there's also better ways to farm, and vegans don't presently have a monopoly of how we want to farm. Like, I can propose the most ethical way of farming right now, and that would be multi-story hydroponics for plants,
You
and
want that?
multi-story hydroponic for growth, and you could do that all around the world, like no matter what environment you're in, and it will produce pretty significant yields, as the Dutch will tell you about their cannabis. But regardless,
Oh yeah. You don't have to tell me about that. I spend like half my life in Holland.
but besides that, I mean, if we oh wait, not besides that, if we do that with crops, no animals will need to be killed. I mean, vegans aren't in monopoly at the moment of farming crops, but humans still need food. So at the moment,
So you're saying there's
vegans.
no like perfect way of doing it. There isn't
No, the
or
perfect way is what I'm proposing. The perfect way is multi-story hydroponic farms of crops, but that isn't a reality at the moment. The reality is long grass, you know, sort of not a grass, but long farm crops where animals will get in and get killed. But the statistics of them getting killed is kind of hard to, statisticate.
Logic in the chat has just said. So these names, and these are people who people who have authored things on those topics, or
It's the Death Squad.
Oh, vertical farming. Oh, people. I thought it was all me. I thought I was like revolutionary. Apparently, people come up before me.
Apparently, it's all right.
Yeah. So vertical farming. Yeah.
Okay.
Apparently, it's a thing.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, you were right. Hydroponics.
I mean, I'm quite interested in looking it up, and definitely for sure, like reading up about it. I do.
I mean, you're like half Dutch. Is your husband's Dutch, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not my husband, but
Oh,
yes,
not yet.
He's he is, yeah. And I spend a lot of time there. Like I speak Dutch. I got quite a lot of Dutch friends, and I love it over there. I mean, they're quite like big
You like
on.
smoke?
I every now and again, but do you know
pancake?
what? Everyone likes pancakes. I don't know one person doesn't like pancakes. I'm joking. There's a coffee shop downstairs from the flat. Literally, so like we look out the window. I sent a picture to Swiss the other day, actually. There's a coffee shop literally downstairs and about 10 yards up the street, like up the little street. So yeah, I mean, our neighbours smoke so much that the whole block of flats stinks like weed the whole time. I mean, you can basically just get high off the fumes.
Is it Amsterdam?
Arnhem, but we do spend a lot of time in Amsterdam as well. Yeah.
Arnhem. Oh shit. bridge too far.
A bridge too far, is that
Is
say?
this
Yeah.
bridge still there?
Smoking a pancake.
They've got two
Is
bridges.
the bridge
now.
is the bridge still there?
Yeah, there's the old
So
Arnhem
there's
Bridge.
two bridges now.
Yeah, and then there's the newer one, which is like the one that's mainly used. But they still have like the memorials and things like that, like every year, for the Battle of Arnhem Bridge. So you get like a lot of sort of international, really, sort of worldwide people coming back for the memorial and that kind of thing. And they have like processions and but it's really nice that like the area where the bridge is now has all been redone. So all along the River Rhine, in between the two bridges, there's like bars outside and stuff.
Awesome.
It's I love it.
My favorite game is actually called The Bridge Too Far.
Really?
Came
I
out.
don't even know there was a game called that.
Yeah, it came out in like 1998.
Oh, okay.
I can't get hold of it though. I mean, it costs like £200 now to get hold of. There's no digital copies of it. It's ridiculous.
What? Oh, okay, that's weird.
Serious? Yeah.
Well, if it came out in '98, you must be nearly as ancient as I am.
I'm 30.
Oh, okay, so you're actually younger than me. That's depressing. Right, let's move on.
I'm
feel
the
old.
youngest one here, aren't I?
Are you the youngest?
I think so.
How
I'm
old are you? 20,
I'm
21, 22.
No, 23.
And the baby.
Yeah,
Gerard, you're the baby. I forgot.
Gerard's
Sorry.
always the baby. Gerard's always having a go at me for making him feel like the baby as well. So it's like, don't. I am like 29.
Blue Morphel's only 17. She's in the chat.
Oh, really? Oh, so you're little like so she's little like Gerard then. They're like the same age. The baby's a wee vegan sapling. Oh, that's cute.
Oh.
But I mean, like overall, this thing. So as far as obviously, I know that you do quite a lot of discussions online to do with this and stuff. Do you not feel like this is a movement that's massively growing, because it never used to be mainstream, and now you read stuff about it constantly? It's in loads of supermarkets are promoting. You know what I mean? Loads of like promoting alternative foods.
mean,
there are articles on it, like
it is growing. I mean, I guess me and like people who and other people like Plantain and other people. I mean, Plantain's much bigger YouTuber than me. He's probably about half the size as Switz, but you know, we want to challenge people. I mean, you could negate it to like the atheist sort of like movement of like we're trying to discover. Oh, my cat's knocking on my door. Isn't that weird? We're trying to like discover like the rights and wrongs of things, and like a lot of people won't like that sort of premise, but we think it's right, and we think we have an obligation to discuss these ideas and show our ideas to be true, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna do this. We're gonna challenge people. We think our ideas are right, and at present time, I don't think there's anyone that's been able to show us up. I mean, you can have Saito shouting like fucking, I'm fucking scouts or fucking. I mean, but you know, he's not debunked anything. While he's done that, he's just God. I don't want to. Let's not talk about that. But
carry on.
Sorry. Go on, carry on.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt there.
Yeah, no, we feel our ideas are right, and we're going to push them forward. I mean, people might say, "Oh, yeah, that's like a religious person trying to push their forwards," but no, it's like someone. It's like someone who is against in the 19th century against slavery, trying to push their ideas forward. It's like someone in the 20th century trying to put, you know, equal women's rights forward.
Yeah, I mean,
we're going to argue the points, and we don't care. We don't care if you're going to say, "Oh, yeah, you like religious people, you like this, you like that." We don't care, because we feel we have got the better arguments. essentially.
Well,
there's
That's
No,
how
sorry.
I feel anyway. I don't know if that's what Planted
yeah,
feels.
no, I mean for sure. I mean the ethics are there, and, you know, and they align with human ethics. We're taking human ethics and extending them further to animals, which only makes sense. But not only that, the environmental impact that animal agriculture has, you know, the deficiency of the oceans, you know, the methane gases. We talked about the land just uprooting all the topsoil to create grain to feed these animals. But as well, the health aspect as well. Like I said before, a vegan diet can be really, really healthy for you. So it's like it's all encompassing. There's just so many reasons. So I encourage you to watch documentaries if you have a chance. Liam suggested Cowspiracy or Earthlings. If you have a chance, you could watch those. So you kind of just get a different view on things.
What were you going to say, Swiss? You were about to add something a minute ago.
Oh yeah. Well, I was going to say first of all, as far as a lot of the arguments that you guys make, getting off of the morality of it for a moment, but talking about, you were saying about the environmental impact and there was another one I was just about to say. But basically the environmental impacts, the nutrition, ways that we could do farming in the future, etc. I wouldn't disagree with you on any of those points in particular. And as far as things like, you know, the farming system, you know, battery farms and probably all sorts of worse things that I don't even know about that go on. I'm also with you entirely on those as well. I'm quite for seeing a very radical shift in the way that we produce our food. Maybe not to the same ends that you guys have, because obviously the end result that you would wish to see would be human beings altogether stopping eating meat entirely. But I'll put it this way: I'm at least 75% of the way there with you. You know, I'd like to see us. If I have to forgo having more bacon and chicken freely available in the shops, if it means that we're not keeping the animals cramped up in shitty conditions for the whole time, then fair enough. You know, it's your position as vegans to say, but you're still killing them at the end of the day. And I go, yeah.
Oh, Swiss, I've got a challenge you on that, mate.
Oh, go on then.
So you say you'd be more happy with the animals having more space, but you still would be happy to pay for people to stab them in the neck.
Well, there's. No, that's a fair point. I'll address it. Let me address the second bit first, and then the first bit second. As far as paying for them to stab the animals in the neck, I will say no. I am a consumer at the end of this process, not at the beginning of it. I buy what has already been made. I will accept it propagates the meat industry. Yeah, absolutely fair. Absolutely fair enough. But whenever anyone says to me, they phrase it as if I'm handing over cash to the guy that puts the bolt in their neck. No, because that's just it's not happening.
You do realize you pay them to do it.
No, I pay Tesco's to take the meat products out of their shop without a security guard following me.
Yeah, and they pay people to kill animals.
Yes, yeah. By proxy, I am paying them to kill animals.
Not by proxy.
But in actuality, I'm not.
No, by direct from a continual source, you pay them.
I think I've got to disagree on that one. As I say, I'm saying
No,
I'm accepting.
That money goes to one place, then another place, and then from the final place, someone puts a knife into another being's neck.
I tell you what, yeah, but like Swiss is saying, this is a chain. It's like saying I'm paying the.
It's factual.
Okay, well, yes, but lots of things are factual. It doesn't mean that they are directly true. They're true on a chain kind of level. It's the same as saying I'm paying the fat cat CEO of a tobacco company to give me lung cancer. It's not like I'm going up to him and saying, look, give me lung cancer. Here's 50 quid. No, because I buy.
That's only if you're. No. The difference is, in fact, that's pretty poor. That's a pretty poor equivalency. In fact, it's a non-equivalency.
No, it's not, because it's like a chain type thing. It's like Swiss doesn't go in and go, oh right, here you go. Here's some money to go and slaughter this chicken. And
No, that's exactly what happens.
But I mean, he doesn't.
No,
He walks into Tesco's and buys some meat and then walks out with it.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
And that-
conceding. I'm
that
conceding the point to you. I'm conceding the point to you about 2/3 of the way. I'm accepting that by buying meat, I'm assisting in propagating the meat industry, and I'm also accepting that by proxy, I am giving money to people to kill animals. But I will not accept that I am handing over money directly to a person to kill an animal
No,
because I'm not.
essentially you are, yeah.
No, essentially, yeah, sure. Essentially, you can say that I am, but factually,
direct,
in actuality, I'm not.
Well, this is the process. You buy a product, that money goes to the company. That company then pays that money. That company then pays an
Does the
employee.
deal with the supplier or whatever, and then
No, that company pays an employee to stab an animal in the neck. So if it didn't have your money, then you wouldn't be paying for that.
Well, yes, I'm accepting what you're saying there, though. But the point is, I'm saying it's not me specifically giving them the money to put a bolt in the neck. It's like I pay. Well, let me put it another way. Okay, I pay VAT on products that I buy, right? And that money goes to the Treasury. And then the Treasury decides, hear me out, and then the Treasury decides what the government's going to spend money on. And the government decides, well, we're going to be subsidizing the farms. And then the money that the government gives to the farms, therefore, goes to the farmers who are killing animals. So by that same sort of reasoning, I could have bought a completely unrelated product that happens to be taxed, and I'd still be assisting in the killing of animals.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
ultimately, there's a chain that threads everything together.
All right, I'll show you what's wrong with that, what you just said there.
Okay.
All right. You don't have a choice. Once you pay like subsidies, that you pay money to the government and they decide what they want to do with the money. If they want to put subsidies, that's beyond your power. To decide you want to buy meat, you're then paying for a product that the supermarkets then pay to the consumer, that then pay to an employee, then pay a wage to the employee to stab an animal. You're directly paying someone. Yeah, essentially, you're not essentially pound for pound, but all years together. And it's not a shame. We're not shaming you. This is just reality. I'm just talking reality now.
I'm happy to talk reality, and as I say, I'm accepting your point. I am perfectly happy to say that I am indirectly paying for animals to be killed, but I will not accept I am directly paying for animals.
Oh yeah, indirectly.
If we're willing to make that distinction,
indirectly,
yeah, I'll accept that. Yeah, I'm
But
indirectly
it's
paying
also
for animals to be killed.
in a
It's all-
sense.
it's the same as saying, oh, that because I go in and, like, last week, for example, I walked in and bought a shirt in Primark. That means that, I'm paying somebody to take advantage of, like, sweatshops, child labour in sweatshops. It's exactly
How do you know
the
it's
same
child
thing.
labour though?
Well, I mean, any unfair labour in sweatshops, underpaid, overworked, and that kind of thing.
All right, you're assuming that in these third world countries where these T-shirts are produced, that they're
Well, no, it's just that Primark was one of the ones named in that report that came out a while ago. That's all. But I'm using it as an example. What I'm saying is the same principle, isn't it?
child labour was reported in Primark.
Yeah, there was it was one of the few that were named in. Gosh, it was quite a while ago now. There was quite a few of them named in, like, sort of named and shamed type of thing in an article whereby they were, it was discovered that they were sort of using really inhumane production areas and things. So but then, having said that, a lot of the super cheap budget places often do that. Is why the end prices are so low.
I'm always dubious of that because you can't really, like, for sure tell, like, where your products come from with regard to clothing, and if you, like, boycott it and, like, buy, like, designer stuff. You don't even know where the designer stuff's coming.
No,
because-
I'm not saying that designer stuff's good. I'm just saying if the end product is super, super, super cheap, in order to make up their costs, they're likely to have paid next to nothing to workers for producing it because
Yeah, but
how
and
business
then again, if that's a capitalistic country, and if everyone boycotts it, that's just making the workers poorer, isn't it? And potentially,
Right. Sometimes when you buy these clothes sometimes when you buy these clothes, it actually supports some of the workers because that's the only job opportunity they have, Sometimes. I'm not saying that it's always a good thing, but when you eat a piece of meat, you know because that meat is a dead animal on your plate. So that's why when we say it's indirect, you're directly killing that animal is because there's directly a dead body on your plate. When you buy designer clothes, you might have, fed a family for a day because that's the only job they have. But when you eat meat, it's meat.
But
It's
what
dead
about
animal.
what about the jobs of the people that work in the abattoirs? You could argue that.
The abattoirs?
Yeah, like the
slaughterhouses. It's another
or on the
word for slaughterhouses.
farms, or but
Yeah.
I mean, you can link that all. You can sort of link stuff like that into pretty much any area.
I mean, then we could go into how many psychological issues people that work in abattoirs get into. I mean, the statistics for people that suffer mental illness from stabbing animals constantly. I mean, do you have any idea how
No,
much
I mean, I'm not
is?
saying I'd like to do it. Don't get me wrong.
No, how much mental illness that they get from it is insane. It's like 90% or some shit, like 80%. It's like the only people that can consistently work in those sort of places are sociopaths, people that don't give a shit about anything.
Yeah, or are just desperate, and it's like the only job they've got or something.
Yeah, but obviously that'll be the initial appeal to working in those sort of places. People who are desperate, but then they can't stick to it because they're feeling human beings that will be affected by stabbing animals that don't want to be killed. And that's what causes a large amount of mental illness.
There's the logic. What's the alternative for sweatshop workers? Well, it depends on where it is, but the alternative is obviously for the use of sweatshops altogether to be totally cracked down on and banned in multi countries, like in everywhere. That's the alternative, and for workers to be paid a decent wage. But like and it can be done. It can be done. I mean, is it likely to? No, of course not. But it easily could be. Relatively easily. It's a choice though, isn't it? It's like it's a ideological and political choice in the countries in which those places exist.
I mean, Angel.
Yeah.
Previously, you said you personally wouldn't be okay with killing animals.
Yeah, I mean, of course, because who would like to? I mean, unless you're a total nutcase, like who would be like, yeah, I would really like to slaughter animals. Like, nobody's really gonna.
Would you be okay with paying people to do that?
I mean, if it was just a choice between doing it myself or paying someone, then yeah, I'd rather pay someone.
Or not doing it at all.
I mean, well, that's the ideal scenario, isn't it?
I'm back, by the way. You're okay.
Hi.
I mean, I just kind of find it interesting. I kind of feel like, with me, I kind of feel like we're all on the same wavelength. It's just that we're not all there yet.
Yeah, because people don't.
When I say there yet, I don't think. I think our there is what I'm talking about. You're not on our there, but we're all on the same wavelength. We all have the same morals. We all think the same.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that people who eat meat, who choose to eat meat, and they're well aware of where it comes from. I mean, like, we're all adults, some older than others. Not that I want to think about that. But you know, I don't think that people love the idea of slaughtering animals. I don't think that people that have a varied diet and eat meat as well as everything else are like evil individuals. Of course they're not.
No, I don't think that either. I would never think that.
But I mean, you know,
Some of the like kindest, wonderful people in the world used to eat meat. They still do.
Oh, Ethologic's brought up something in the chat. Sweatshops are a step upwards. Well, of course you need to build infrastructure. That's what I'm saying. It's a whole political setup that needs to be improved. But that's wrong.
Let's invite EFO in here. EFO's
to say that sweatshops are a good thing for people. That's totally and utterly wrong.
Hey,
there will
hey
be
guys.
cases. There will be cases where that's true, but
I agree that it's not a good thing, but sometimes it's all they have.
Yeah, but exactly. But the key is in the word sometimes. To actually say their lives as a collective term is just total and utter rubbish. That is not the case in so many parts of the world, in so many situations.
Right, I agree with that. I agree, but like I said, it's either go to these slave shops or just die on the streets. Which is better?
In some cases, but not in all. Like to blanket say that that's a step up for like everyone, that's not true.
Yeah. Okay. We're in agreement here. We're in agreement.
I'm probably going to bow out in about 15 minutes because I've got to get up and host my own stream tomorrow. So I'm going to need to get a little bit of sleep before then.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm invading it. I'm on this. I'm not invading it. I'm gonna lurk in the chat and say not vegan though every 10 minutes.
To be honest, I
still haven't heard a moral justification yet.
Oh God! I tell you what, I will wrap it up in the next 5 to 10 as well because I also have to be up and I've got loads of shit to do tomorrow. Oh well, you can jump in for the last 10 minutes if you want. Do you want me to drop?
Yeah, drop the link. EFO is basically Jesus.
Jesus, okay.
Yeah, he's basically Jesus, and Jesus with a big giant plastic dildo.
Or Jesus if you're Spanish.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yes, so you're more than welcome to hop in, but I will be wrapping things up in the next 5 to 10. Yeah, you're more than welcome to rejoin.
I'm going all night and all day, Switz. I'm going to come on your stream like a fucking drunken maniac.
Oh, God. Are you going to be even more pissed by then than you are now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I'll be asleep in 2 hours probably.
Mine is sort of like the backup channel. Like I don't do content on mine as a general rule, but I always end up sort of like sometimes people go, oh, let's carry on something somewhere. We're Angel, let's do it on yours. I'm like, okay, that's fine.
And I'll just say quickly for any of the new people to this channel who are watching, I do videos on my YouTube channel. I'm the largest out of us lot, aren't I? As far as subscribers go.
It's Captain Switzerland.
Whoa! And mainly my videos focus on politics in the United Kingdom. Sometimes we talk about Trump. Occasionally, but generally it's just the UK. And so yeah, if people happen to be interested in that, then by all means check out Captain Switzerland, and I'll be hosting a stream tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'll be getting involved in vegan streams as well. So all you vegans here, subscribe.
I mean, now we're going to have a few vegans turning, but because we do also, do sort of topic discussion and stuff, especially stuff that's in the news. So it'd be it's like you said earlier, it's quite interesting to have a few vegans. We've got a Lib Dem Remainer. I get taken the piss out of enough. It's someone else's turn.
It's time for some greens, isn't it? Time for some fucking greens.
We need some bloody greens.
We need a green. I do have some green mates, but my friend was really scared of Stizer, so she never showed up.
I don't blame her.
He's not that scary.
And we need a resident Tory as well, because Psychobenz used to come in the streams. He doesn't so much anymore. We need someone who's a conservative to come up. We don't have any people on the right.
Can we have an American conservative?
American conservatives will work just fine, yeah.
Well, yeah, of course they'll work, but what I'm saying is we do need somebody to like try and tell us why Theresa May and her
They don't exist on the
unbelievably
internet.
incompetent government like is somehow good.
Oh, they're
Yeah.
called the BBC. They do a very good job at it.
No,
They
I
don't-
think they're.
They
Joe-
don't exist on the internet.
I think even they're struggling at this point. I mean, I can't even. I know a lot, quite a few Tory voters who are like, yeah, this is a fucking mess. Like,
Blue wants to know what's a Tory. It's a Republican, Blue.
it's
It's
a conservative.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for the terminology as well,
But
we
Blue,
don't.
because she's American, it's a Republican.
Yep. But we don't actually have Republicans in our country because that would mean trying to get rid of the Queen, and the Conservatives aren't in favour of that. But yeah, they're our main right wing party. They're the Conservatives, but they're also known as the Tories.
Yeah, and also you could pretty much fit our entire political spectrum into the Democrats.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's a weird difference between us and over in the US, isn't it?
We're all socialist bastards.
Yeah,
communists.
we're all a bunch of commies with our free
Yeah.
healthcare.
I'd say we're like proper centre right actually, because the amount of time I spend in Holland, like they're just so much more like their VVD, which, like I said, is their equivalent to the Conservative Party, right? Is basically our centre to centre left. It's like maximum as like Lib Dem kind of thing, and then their Socialist Party and things like that, and their Greens are like well to the left of ours.
Greens should be like, I don't know. Greens should be necessarily left or right. I mean, why is conserving the environment left essentially? I mean, that should be a conservative like thing, shouldn't it? Because you conserve the environment. I don't get it.
I think it's more traditionalist values, though, isn't it? Conserving traditional values. That's what it's meant to sort of.
Not conserving the environment.
I guess. I guess as well. When the sort of the green movement started up, which I think was in the '60s, where it really got going. I guess back then, the people that they were opposing the most was big business, the ones doing the damage to the environment, and big business was, it was synonymous with free market economics, which was what the right and the Conservatives were in favour of. So, but it's a funny one, isn't it? Because the Tories are probably like, yeah, our national parks, we bloody well love those. Don't build prisons in my backyard, all the rest of it. But oh yeah, big industry, pollute the environment, yeah, whatever.
It is a bit of a
conflict, doesn't it?
It's a bit of an oxymoron, isn't it? Really, I mean, and I think actually the Conservatives in this country don't. The reason, well, there are multiple reasons, but one of the reasons why they are in such utter disarray, especially at the moment, is that they obviously, one of the biggest being Europe, but there's other things that they're tearing themselves to shreds over as well, is that I feel like they've lost what they stand for. I don't feel like, and it's also according to the Conservative, either minister or whatever, that you ask, they seem to not really know what they stand for anymore. Like you get different answers from different ones. There's no cohesion. They just seem like in complete and utter disarray. So I think that they need to, it's a bit like you were saying to us the other day, they need to take some time out, go and sit on the naughty step for a while, figure it out.
The naughty step, otherwise known as opposition.
The Conservatives are done. I mean, they are dying.
Well, they're certainly not in a good place. I'll give you that. I can't understand people voting for them in this state. I will be honest.
It's only going to be older generations that are going to voting for them, and the new generations aren't going to vote for them. They are dying.
But even then, my dad, for example, is in his 70s, and I always use him as like my sort of example of like what I'd call sort of moderate conservative, like say floating voter that has voted Conservative quite a lot in the past.
Is he voting for Jezza?
But more, no, God, no, you're joking. Be a cold day in hell before he votes for Jeremy. No, he voted Lib Dem in the 2017 election. He voted for Cameron. He voted for Cameron before that, but he's also a Remainer, and he was really, really pissed off at the Conservatives, like total mismanagement, and irresponsible way of handling Brexit as a rule. Like he doesn't.
They should have just. They should have got Boris in, shouldn't they? As soon as Brexit got announced, Boris was the one. That's what they should have done.
Well, I mean, Boris to me is like just.
Yeah, but everyone can have a chuckle.
I don't even find him funny. I just, to me,
He's not funny anymore, is he?
No,
He used to be funny.
he's like nothing but toxic, to be perfectly honest.
We've got a last minute joiner in the chat.
Oh.
Yeah, I was coerced a little bit to join in.
Oh, it's Tim.
That's doing tonight. I enjoyed listening to this a lot more than the previous stream for sure.
Oh,
I imagine you probably did, yeah.
Is that because we're not ripping each other's heads off and yelling and like?
Yeah, well, you guys are very receptive, and you've given a lot of very intellectually honest answers, and no one yelled at each other. So yeah, that's.
Yeah, but
I mean, we can't expect everyone to agree with us. That's for sure. It's a lot to ask someone to just give up their entire cultural identity after one conversation. So I never had that expectation of anyone.
But having said that, I don't think it's just that. I think that we have actually agreed on a lot of points raised and a lot of the stuff that we've been discussing. So like the overall principles of many of the stuff that we've been chatting about has basically been totally shared.
Right, exactly. And I think that's the point that Bohan, Plantin were trying to get at for the most part, is that, we give you guys these hypotheticals and they all seem so extreme and ridiculous sometimes. We give them because we presume that most people already have the same convictions that we do in regards to rights. So this conversation, I think, was really good evidence of that. So I appreciate that. So there were a couple things that I wanted to address, though, that we were talking about in the chat, Angels. Like, for one, I brought up racism as an example.
Oh, right. Yeah.
To talk about how you make impartial distinctions, right? So about why you would do something to animals but not to humans, it's good to first talk about it within the human context so we can understand why we wouldn't do it within the human context. For example, if I'm making a judgment between two people and I judge them based on my racial preference, I have done something that is impartial and therefore immoral. Would you agree with that statement?
So you're saying sorry, can you just say that one more time? It's like nearly 5 a.m. and my brain's a mess.
Sure. Sure, no problem. Not a problem at all. So if you're making a judgment between two persons and one of them is black and one of them is white, and you make a judgment based on a racial preference, whether that preference be black or white, you have done something that is impartial and it is therefore unfair. And since fairness is a moral value, you have done something therefore immoral. Would you agree with that?
So you're saying it comes down to partiality because I've done it mainly on aesthetic. So like somebody's appearance is this way, so therefore I give them this, or I wouldn't give whatever it is to the other person based on what they look like. Is that not fair and is that immoral? Yeah.
Okay. So when you do that between people based on race, it's wrong, right? So when you do it based on species, it's also equally as wrong. It fits into the same moral foundations, right? Because you're still.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Like I was going to say, so it's wrong if you think about species species of whatever animal it is, to the same degree as you think of human beings, and I do not think of them as the same thing.
That's not true. So let's think about it again within human context. Do you think all humans in the same degree morally equivalent?
I think
this is going to sound like a crude example. Let me give you this is going to sound a little bit crude, so I hope you'll forgive me. Let's say you have someone who's mentally retarded, can't take care of themselves at all, and someone who's fully cognitive. They have an IQ of at least 100, right? Highly cognitive person, right? And you're forced to choose one. One of them has to die. Which one do you choose?
I don't know. I guess in that situation, I wouldn't be able to answer that.
The mentally retarded one.
So, Captain, if you'd pick the mentally retarded one, then we've established that we can make, we can still ascribe moral value to both the mentally retarded one and the non-mentally retarded one, but at the same time, still have to make moral distinctions between them.
I think that like these are rather extreme and slightly non-contextual examples. I don't think it's quite the same thing. It might have a similar sort of backbone to it, if that makes sense, like a similar sort of principle, but they're still not the same thing. I
Okay, so
don't.
what's the difference?
Well, I mean, it was a bit like we were saying earlier. If you have certain animals, for example, who do not have as much awareness as human beings, who do not have as much intelligence, sensitivity, etc., and who are just, you know.
Okay, can I stop you? I don't mean to interrupt you, but so if we focus on awareness again within the human context.
Well, what was it you were saying? What was it you? Sorry, one of you guys earlier was.
You would still say an unaware human, like a human of lower awareness, would still have moral value, wouldn't they?
But I mean, if you're going to slaughter a human and then eat them, then I would rather that
you wouldn't do that, though. I mean, for you, it was you didn't want to choose either. For you didn't want to choose either. Captain gave a different answer, so I addressed his answer. But for you didn't want to choose either.
I would probably just have to do an eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and then be horrified.
Right. So, I mean, the bottom line is when you're making these determinations, right, it's good to look at it within the human context, because when you look at it within the human context, you can see that just because a mentally retarded person is less aware than the standard for humanity, it doesn't mean that mentally retarded person has no moral value. So just because an animal is less aware than the standard for humanity, it does not mean that animal does not have any moral value.
No, I'm not. I don't think it has no moral value, but you're also not going to eat the mentally retarded person, whereas you are going to eat the slaughtered pig. Well, I mean, if you're me.
I'd
right,
like to.
You wouldn't accept that again, but you wouldn't accept that within the human context.
Well, no, I wouldn't obviously slaughter a mentally retarded person and eat them, like I said.
But what's the morally relevant difference between someone doing that and someone doing it to an animal?
Because first of all, it's cannibalism, and
okay, second, but I mean, cannibalism isn't a moral argument, though.
But I don't regard animals to the same level as humans, regardless what people say. Like they are still animals. Of course,
you don't have to regard them to the same level. That's not necessary.
It's a bit like I said. If I was shut in a room and I had to kill either, say, a cat or a human, kill the cat.
This goes back to my very first argument, where it's wrong to make adjudications based on preference, right? You're not being partial. You're not having impartiality when you judge animals to humans, right? Just like you agreed it was wrong to judge a black to a white person based on race, it's wrong to judge an animal to a human based on species. You're not stating a morally relevant difference. You're just deciding based on your that humans don't eat each other and animals are okay to be eaten by humans.
But carry on, Swiss, because I think I know what you're going to bring up.
I was just going to say I'd probably disagree with the comparison between saying that you wouldn't distinguish between a black person and a white person, because that'd be racist within the humans. Therefore, why would you distinguish between humans and animals? I would say because we're looking at different magnitudes of categorization here. With black people and white people, you're looking at different skin color, sure, but you're looking at two people within humanity with all of the rights, morality, and all the rest of it you ascribe to humans. Whereas animals, there's one hell of a spectrum there, from the more intelligent animals to the less intelligent animals to.
Okay, but that spectrum exists within humans as well. This is why I keep.
Oh, it does. But what I'm saying is, it's like earlier on when we said about, do you believe in universal basic human rights? And I said, I don't believe they intrinsically exist, but I believe we sign up to them socially and agree what they are. And I think that goes the same for how we regard animals, for that matter. I think that, in reality, in the world, you could, in theory, go out and do whatever you want, but you don't, because there's either fear of consequences or your own personal conscience weighing on that. But for me personally, at least, and I think probably for most people this probably applies, I think there's a heavier weight to a person's own conscience if they were to kill a human than if they were to kill an animal.
Yeah. Definitely, without a doubt.
Okay, yeah, but again, that's not establishing what the morally relevant trait is, right? You're still making impartial distinctions. Like, you're still not making impartial distinctions. You're just saying that because that animals are not humans, it's okay to exploit animals. That's the crux of what you're saying, from what I'm getting.
That is essentially what I'm saying. Yeah. When we're talking about what this golden trait is that separates us from the animals, I think earlier on I answered humanity, and it's obvious because we all know the point where we're all disagreeing by now. But that's basically it. Yeah.
For me, what matters is not the morally relevant trait that would justify your actions, but it's the morally relevant trait that justifies the non-action, right? Because the morally relevant trait is sentience, right? So that, first, just to go back to universal basic rights real quick. So for me, those rights are natural rights, okay? So that's life, liberty, and property. So any being who is a subject of a life is capable of experiencing those three things: life, liberty, and property. To be a being that is a subject of a life, you must possess sentience. So any animal that possesses sentience should be endowed with their right to life, liberty, and property. They should be respected. That should be respected. Why? Because subjects of a life that are sentient can be harmed or benefited by our actions. Because your direct actions can impact their life, liberty, or property, you should take into consideration those actions before committing to them. Would you agree that life, liberty, and property are values that we should uphold?
I would like to agree with that on principle, but and I'm not trying to be pedantic here whatsoever. But your definitions of what life, liberty, and property are, would you mind going through that just briefly for me?
Oh, so life, I mean, life is just your life. You have a right to be alive, right? Property is your actual corporeal body. When I talk about property, I actually mean
yes, that's the one I was struggling with a little bit. So property, you mean your own person, your own body, basically, your personal space, in a sense.
Yeah. Some people extend that to physical property, not me. I just extend it to the corporeal form. So
okay.
And then liberty is just as it sounds. It's liberty,
Freedom,
right?
yeah.
Freely, and liberty to me is my, basically in a kind of glib phrase, my liberty is my fist ends where your nose begins, kind of a deal. That's liberty.
So like,
as long as I'm not impacting your, basically as long as as long as I'm not doing anything to disrupt your three natural rights, then I can do whatever I want. And I apply that to anyone who is a subject of a life.
Okay. If I may, then, can I try and build upon that slightly? Because you've spoken about rights that are sort of enshrined with living things. I'll add in what I would describe as a responsibility, and I think this is probably what sets us apart from the animals. Earlier on, one of the arguments was being made about moral agency. That was it, moral agency, and the fact that animals do not possess moral agency in the same way that human beings do, right? And therefore, sort of as humans, knowing better, we ought not to be killing these animals. I'd say that it's fair to make a distinction to say animals, as far as they are regarded, they do not hold the moral agency to say it's not right to kill or harm a human, but humans hold the moral agency to say it's not right to kill or harm another human. So humans can regard each other equally in that sense, but with humans and animals, that relationship is only ever going to be a one-way street. There's no way animals will ever have the agency to know not to harm or kill humans. So if we're going to go for sort of a golden rule, do unto others kind of thing, where we're not comparing like with like here, because humans.
That's my point. Yeah.
I totally get what you're saying. I get what you're saying 100%. But infants don't have moral agency. The mentally invalids don't have moral agency, and senile people don't have moral agency.
Actually, that's not strictly true.
We don't, and it's not strictly true with animals either. But beyond that, so if humans were devoid of moral agency, we wouldn't strip them of their moral value. And then two, before I said that, to me, the only morally relevant trait is sentience. So it doesn't matter if they have moral agency or not to me, whether they be humans or otherwise.
That's fair. To be fair, those were words that other people were using, not you. So yeah, fair enough on that one.
For me, like the moral agency argument is interesting because I don't necessarily agree that animals don't have moral agency. I think there are examples in science. If you really look into animal cognition, there are examples where within animals, they have their own moral agency. Obviously, they have their own moral codes. Like some of it really will blow your mind. Like if you look
I
at France,
know, yeah, no, I know that there are some. I remember watching. I don't know whether you are referring to this or whether you've seen this, but there was that. There was, oh God, it was like on fairly recently, probably less than a year ago over here, but it's probably been on there as well, where they filmed a group of some type of monkey. I can't remember the exact, like, the exact type, but there was one of them had died, and they were like all lining up and like paying respects to it and like gathering around it, and it almost looked like an actual funeral, like a human funeral, and it was so unbelievably touching to see, because it was honestly, their way of sort of paying respects to a member of their community. You know what I mean? And
I
stuff.
totally know what you mean. 100% know what you mean. I see something like that and I think, wow, these are beings that are having these amazing,
I think people
almost human experiences. Like it's their experience, it's unique to them. It's something we might not even be able to comprehend.
Definitely.
Sometimes we're denying them that. It's hard. And you think about monkeys being that smart. Pigs are considered to be the 5th smartest animal in the world by a lot of experts.
Parrots as well are apparently.
Yeah, a gray parrot is the only animal ever to ask a self-referential question. I mean, this is like animals do some amazing things.
They're also the only animals that turn around and tell you to F off, which is why I love them.
Well, to be fair, we deserve it sometimes. So,
guys, I've been really enjoying this, but I'm gonna have to bow out. My girlfriend's just got back in, so I want to say hello to her before we head off to bed.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say that I really enjoyed this conversation this evening. Even though we've been talking on opposite sides of the debate, I've really enjoyed the points that you guys have raised. Just if not for anything else, for the sake of sort of having a bit of intellectual, mental discussion. It's been really enjoying to sort of challenge what your own thoughts and beliefs are.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I just wanted to add to this because I am going to wrap things up too, because I could easily be here chatting with you guys all night, but
let's do it.
I'd love to, but I really can't. But there will be plenty of other opportunities, and hopefully very soon. So I just want to say thanks, guys, for turning up onto this random continuation from Stize's stream earlier, and turns out that the vegans aren't quite the death squad after all.
No, we're the vegan debate death squad. We're not the death squad.
Oh no. The vegan death squad would be called meat eaters, as far as I understand it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, actually. So yeah, just want to say thanks as well to everyone in the side chat. We've been having a bit of discussion in there as well, which has been nice. And obviously, if you haven't, I think you guys might have subbed to me. If you haven't subbed to Swiss, sub to him, because we're having a stream tomorrow.
Yes,
so if you want to hop in at some point.
Oh no, I'm already subscribed to you.
Okay, all right then. So anyway, I will wrap this up for now. Again, thanks to everyone, and hopefully catch up very soon.
Yay!
Smashing. See you later.
Cheers, guys. No problem. Bye.